first thing that we're going to look at in this etude is how to create a beautiful sound on that C sharp. C sharp shows up so much through this etude because it's in C sharp minor, and we need to figure out how to find the tone quality that best fits that note and blends in with the rest of the line. So we're actually going to start on the fourth note of this etude and go work backwards. So play your best F sharp, and then we're going to work down E natural, D sharp to that C sharp. Each time we go down, we try and maintain the sound that we heard before. The amount of resonance, the tone quality, all of no extra airiness in the sound, everything like that. In order to create that C sharp, you're going to have to change some things inside your mouth. Either change the vowel shape from an ah, e, oo. Something in there has to change. I use more of a her or an sort of shape in there. And aim the air slightly down into the flute so that you can keep that tone quality the same. It'll take some experimenting to figure out how to best get that tone quality to happen. But it's so important because it really just comes up over and over again. And of course this opening phrase is repeated at least 4 times throughout this etude. So you want to really make sure that you have that beautiful tone to start with. And then the tone just continues through that C sharp. Last thing I'll say about the C sharp is you might want to add your 5th and 6th fingers to start this note. It's going to help make the C sharp to D sharp a little bit smoother in that transition, so you won't have any clunkiness in between your keys. But then also it helps to bring down the pitch of the C sharp, and if nothing else, it helps you focus on getting to the center of that sound. Next, we're going to look at the various markings in this that you might not be familiar with. The ornaments that we see throughout this, and then also the different accidentals. Particularly, we're going to look at the double sharp sign, which appears in that second phrase. We have a C double sharp. It looks like an X. And here we're going to have the C, and we sharp it once, which of course we know means C sharp. But then when we sharp it one more time, we go up one more half step in your chromatic scale. From C sharp, the next note up would be D natural. So in that bar, the second phrase, you would have a high E, then a D sharp, then actually a D natural, which is the same as C double sharp. Okay, the other double sharp that occurs throughout this is F double sharp, which is going to be the same as G natural. Now let's look at the ornaments. Whenever we have these grace notes, turns, or mordents, we want to make sure that we maintain the rhythm. So first I'm going to play that first 2 bars without the grace note, and it sounds like this. Play that several times until you really get the 1, 2, and 3, and 1. You really get that rhythm very clear. And then we just add that grace note in at the last second. It shouldn't detract from the line, and you should not tongue that grace note. You don't want to stop the air or anything like that. It's one continuous line. Same thing which happens at the end of the phrase. The next ornament we're going to look at occurs 6 measures after the second ending. Here, this tricky rhythm in here, you want to make sure that you get this. It would be 1 and triplet, 2 E and 3 E and 1. So it sounds like this. Ready and 1 and triplet, 2 E and 3 E and 1. In this bar, there's several things that are sort of difficult. You want to make sure that that F double sharp stays through the bar. So the second time, that right after you see that squiggly line, we call that a mordent. That's the note after that is actually going to be a F double sharp or G natural. Now, going back to the mordent, Here, a mordent just means that we basically trill one time. So we're going to play a G sharp on that note, the note that's written, and then we play the A above it, and we come back to the G sharp. Again, we have to keep the rhythm, so it's pretty quick. Listen to it once. 3 E and 4 E and. One and triplet, 2 E and 3 E and 1. When you're doing that mordent, you can actually leave the pinky down, so when you have the G sharp and you go to the A, you only have to lift the third finger so that it's really quick on there. Dee-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, all the way to the C sharp. Then on that next bar, the 7th bar after the second ending, we have another ornament which is called a turn. Here you see a turn is the note that's written, the note above, the note that's written, then you play the note below and back to the note that's written. So in this case we have a sharp written under the turn, which means that that lowered note is going to be sharped. So the notes that we play are C sharp, that's the note that's written, then we go D sharp above it because D sharp is in the key signature, back to that C sharp, then we play a B, but we're going to sharp it because it's got that sign written under the turn. So that B sharp, which is the same as C natural, and then back to the C sharp. It's going to sound 1 triplet and a 1. So really I'm playing 2 16th notes at the end. If you'll just do this with me, play C sharp, an 8th note, and then C sharp, D sharp, E. So we'd have 1 and a 2, da, 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 C, C, D, E. Then we just add the triplet. 1 triplet and a 1. 1 and a da da da. I think that's the smoothest way to get that ornament to fit in there. Some people would choose to play it a little bit later and do it slightly differently, but I think that keeps the melodic quality the best. All right, I'm going to play those 2 bars so that you understand how those all work. 3 bars, actually. Again, it's really important to maintain that rhythm all the way through. You should play this line without any ornaments for many weeks until you feel really secure with all of these rhythms and the notes that are in there, because the notes are tricky even without the ornaments. And then once you feel more comfortable, start to work in one ornament at a time. Okay, work in the mordent first or work in the turn first, but don't try and take it on all at once. It won't work as well. Another difficult part of this etude is trying to play these long phrases in one breath. In order to practice this breath control, that means spacing out your air evenly and efficiently throughout the phrase, I'm actually going to simplify the melody. So we're just going to look at that first phrase. So we've got 4 bars to play, and then we can take a breath. Okay, the breath is written after that 4th bar. And instead of playing all the notes in here, I'm just going to play a simplified version. So I'm going to play a 1/4 note approximately per beat and see if I can make that breath in that amount of time. So I'm just focusing on how much air I'm releasing, but you want to maintain the tone quality at the same time. If you made it with that first phrase like that, then you should be fine to add in the extra notes. You just have to remember, where do you give the air and where can you save the air? A couple places that you want to try and save is actually in the beginning. If we take a big breath to start out with, it's really easy to take that big breath and just release all of it at the beginning, especially on a C sharp. Already I've played with too much air, and really it's too loud. At the beginning we're supposed to be piano. That C sharp takes barely any air. If you focus on where your target needs to be with your airstream, where are you aiming that air, then play that C sharp where that target is. It should come out with almost no air expelled. Here's the simplified melody again. I'm playing C, D sharp, F sharp, then going to the G sharp, C sharp, B, G sharp. Just basically every beat, I'm just playing one note. And it should get easier every time that you practice this release of the air. Mark in all of your breaths that you plan to take and practice going from breath to breath. If you figure out how that airstream needs to work and how you need to control your breath before you get there, then you know how much air you have to tank up with before you take that breath. It's really important in this that you don't sound like you're gasping and dying for air. You want to make this sound controlled and easy. And it needs to create a constant musical line and a beautiful phrase. The most technically challenging part of this etude happens at the un poco più mosso, which means just a little bit faster or with a little more motion. And here we've got to play with more motion, but the notes get more difficult, right? We've got all of these accidentals that, quite frankly, are very difficult to read. And you want to make sure that you get all the notes right first. So there are 3 ways that I would suggest practicing it. First, and most importantly, practice it as a tone study. Okay, you want to make the most beautiful tone on each note. And I would not go on to the next note until I am absolutely sure I know what it is. This way you aren't practicing wrong notes. So here's an example from that poco più mosso. Here I'm focusing on not only getting the correct notes, but also creating this beautiful tone quality and perfect slurs. As much as possible, you want to keep the slur intact so that the airstream flows from one note to the next. You don't want it to sound like this, with little pushes on each note, right? That's one way to practice it, but you really ultimately want to have one big line. Okay, so that's the first way to practice, is really slow and just as a tone study. The next way to practice would be doing it beat by beat. Okay, so we're going to look at the third bar actually for this, the third bar of the poco più mosso. We're going to take it 1 and a 2. I go to that second beat, so you're going to play from the B downbeat to the D sharp. So again, I'm focused on the tone. Don't let that G sharp scream out. You want to focus on where your lips need to be placed in order to get the best sound for that. Let's find that G sharp first. Now you got to aim your air there in order to create that good sound. And if you need to, tongue all the notes, so that your fingers get really secure in that. And then we do beat 2 to beat 3. 2 E and a 3. Or you can do a lot of different articulations there, but make sure that you're focusing on the rhythm. 2 E and a 3. And then finally 3 E and a 1. This next bar I would keep in rhythm, and you can either choose to take that breath there or not, because we're going to play that C. So we would go 1 and a 2. So C, E, C, A. Repeat these as many times as you need. Then we go to E and a 3. If you just slowly work your way through this, or at least do those on those tricky spots that you keep, making mistakes in, this would be the 6th bar of the poco più mosso. I think that one's definitely a bar that you need to spend some time on. So I just do 1 E and a 2, and you can do the slurs as written. But I'm focusing on going beat to beat. Instead of trying to take a whole measure or a whole phrase, just try and get beat to beat at first and really get these notes under your fingers. The last way that I would practice this is actually in phrasing groups. Okay, this is after you've practiced it with long tones and as a tone study, and then also if you've practiced it beat to beat. You must feel really secure in the notes before you can do this. Okay, so we're going to take basically each little phrase group and play it as musically as possible. So here I'm going to do, at the poco piamoso, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 1. And you really try and get all the waves in there. Do da 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 dia 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 da da da. Not with extra tongues, but you can keep it all under the slur, but just try and feel the phrase grouping like that. And then we do the next grouping, which would be, sorry, and 2 E and 3 1. You'll notice that I started on that F sharp, which is on the and of the beat. Think it in rhythm, so give yourself 3 1. And then we start on the E of the beat for the next phrase. So E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 2 3. Again, try and get that legato quality as much as possible, the best slurs you can get. 2 and 3. Then we go and a 2 E and a 3 1. And you can go through and make these different groupings as you hear them musically. Those were just a couple examples, but the most important part of practicing this way is that you keep a rhythmic context always. So if you're going to start on the second 16th note of a beat, you've got to think dee da, E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1. Or if you're starting on the third 16th note, the and of the beat, it's 1 and a 2 E and a 3 1. So that rhythm is ingrained in your body and you really feel this now as musical gestures within a rhythmic context. Good luck preparing this etude and happy practicing.